Good evening. It's 6:30 on Monday, February the 24th, 2020, and I now call the Winton City School Board of Education to order. Please turn your cell phone to silence and rise with me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Seymour, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Cupoletti? Here. Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Present.
Mr. Birdie?
Here.
Dr. Johnson?
Present. As we work through our agenda tonight, I just want to remind everybody that we do, and our listening audience, that we do follow the SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-sensitive. And these are the district goals that fall up under the student achievement, resource alignment, and community engagement. So our first item on the agenda tonight is our district honors, recognitions, gifts, and introductions. As a reminder to just our audience, our board changed our protocol so that each board member gets an opportunity to go up and give the awards out. So I'm going to invite Mrs. Ruggles to take her place at the podium.
I got some.
And once she does, then Mr. Smith, you will have the floor.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Smith.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
Interesting. So our first award goes to, I don't see Riley here tonight. She's actually been awarded seems like every month since we started this process. She's an incredible young lady, but I'm going to wait to read her information and hopefully she will come in. We need a representative from the Kiwanis group. No one showed up tonight for the Kiwanis group, but we always have a backup Kiwanis always planted in the audience. So Mr. Denny, can you come up? Where's Taj Hill? Amazing. Come up, please, sir. So Taj is going to be awarded. He is the Student of the Month, which he is going to receive a nice Gold Star gift card. But I want to read a little bit about this young man. You know, he told me when I first met him, I'm not just a handsome face. So here's something from the director, one of the new tech coordinators, and it's from Eloise Richardson. Since retiring from Procter & Gamble in 2012 and 25 years of service in products development, I've had the true honor to mentor and teach in my own community of Winton Woods City School District on a full-time basis. To date, and with a collective 30 years in Cincinnati, I've met some of the most truly extraordinary young people along the way. Young people who take their education seriously and earnestly, one such person being Mr. Taj Hill. As he finalizes his 4-year trek through high school at Winton Woods, I've observed one of the most respectful, hardworking, charismatic, and academically focused individuals in my capacity as both a mentor and a leader. Taj is on target to becoming one of the most well-educated individuals of his generation. He is also an academic standout, scoring an ACT composite score. Anybody know what's a perfect score? 36? Taj has a 30. All right, so that's pretty amazing. The national average is 21 to 22. A perfect score again is 36. He's a well-rounded socially being with a student and also a student athlete. To date, as a football player and as a marching band and orchestra member, this is all while representing our district respectfully with pride. He is an exemplary academic leader, role model, and I'm honored to know him and to have had Taj as a student. In summary, I'm sure I speak the sentiments of my colleagues, and that just may be. We have had something to do with developing his awesome intellect and aspiring young man and scholarship. Mr. Hill. Thank you. So who came with you tonight, sir? Nobody. All right, but you've got a team right there. So what I'd like for you to do is come back to the podium and tell us a little bit of what inspires you to be as talented as you are.
Can you guys hear me? You guys can hear me, right? Just making sure. So I'm gonna keep this short and sweet, because I know I talk a lot and I hear that a lot from people. I digress because I like hearing myself talk, but I'll leave that alone. I just always feel a motivation and a passion, and I guess want to take care of my family and my future generations and make them better off than I was growing up. I'm not saying I had it terrible, because I don't have it terrible, of course. There are kids who have it far less as well as me, and there are kids who struggle every day. But I just want everybody to be successful and just grind and establish wealth for my family. And the biggest part is, after being stressed out, especially entering adulthood, I just want all the kids that come through the high school to not have to deal with the stress that I've had to deal with, and always have somebody to talk to.
Bravo. Thank you, sir. Before you go, question.
Yes, sir.
Help me understand something.
Go ahead.
So I have one of my colleagues and good friends here he is the superintendent of North College Hill, Mr. Blaylock. How you doing, sir? I wanted to do something. I need to know how you play in the band and on the football team at the same time.
Well, I mean, it was just, so there's concert band and there's symphonic
very
band.
good. Okay.
Okay, so you can't really do marching band and play football at the same time, of course. So just balancing those out.
But I have seen the cheerleaders march in the band and cheer.
That is true.
Okay. So
That
it
is
could have
true.
been done.
It could have.
All right, but what we'll do? We'll keep you here another year and see if we can work that through.
Hey, by all means.
Okay, very good.
By all means.
All right, thank you, sir.
No problem.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So the next recipient is an incredible student. I've watched this young man grow to be just absolutely awesome. And he usually has a little fan with him, but he doesn't have it tonight. And I'd like to bring up Mr. Mark Barrett.
All right.
Yes, yes, sir.
After all of that, yes, I think so.
So this is actually written from his swimming coach. He is actually the recipient of as the student athlete of the month. So congratulations, sir. Yes. Mark has a 4.0 second quarter, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm going to read a little bit of how you get this award. Mark is an excellent example of commitment as a Winton Woods warrior. Mark is involved in many different activities at school, including being a varsity swimmer for 3 years. Mark gives 100% commitment to each of his activities and really steps up his year as sectionals to help his relay team have their best personal time ever. Mark also swam outstanding in his individual events as well, and he is an exceptional young man. And so in order to be nominated for the Skyline Student Athlete of the Month, students must maintain an academic standard of 3.0 or higher, show respect for coaches, teammates, officials, teachers, and other students and family, show enthusiasm and a positive attitude, display commitment to practice games and personal skill development, demonstrate honesty in playing by the rules, and have high moral character. The Skyline Student Athlete of the Month is awarded by the Forest Park Skyline Chili Restaurant, a business partner of Winton Woods City Schools. So, Mr. Barrett, congratulations. Okay, so who came with you tonight?
My mom, my
All right.
lovely mother.
Come on up, Mom, for the photo opportunity. Okay, Mark, why don't you say a few words about
Please.
who inspires you and how you have worked diligently to maintain that 4.0?
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Mark. Well, I guess who inspires me, what motivates me? I guess just, when I really think about it, look deep in my soul, everything that I do in my life is to someday catch the eye of Barbara Streisand. Everything I do is for her. Everything I want to be is her. I'm currently already have plastic surgery in the works. I'm going to blonde my hair. Everything is for her. Swimming. I'm here for swimming. I like to swim. What was the question?
You've answered it. Thank you very,
I have?
very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, very good. I do have to tell you this gets better, folks, as we go through.
Okay.
So we have great students, but without great teachers, that would almost be virtually impossible. So I would like to bring up this dynamic duo of Jamie Hogue and Lynn Blaylock to the podium, please. So I'm going to read a little bit about them, and then they will give you some of the background of why they have inspired other people to be as great as they are. Spanish teacher Jamie Hogue and intervention specialist Lynn Blaylock have committed themselves to rebranding our positive behavior interventions and supports, better known as PBIS. During the 2019-2020 school year, they've used student data and teacher input to develop effective positive strategies aligned to the goals of Winton Woods CCIP, which is a comprehensive continuous improvement plan. Assistant Principal Tyler Arnold stated, Jamie and Lynn have blossomed in their leadership and dedication to the PBIS plan and they've been developed to continue to build a strong positive culture that epitomizes the warrior way. Assistant Principal Amber Strouser shared, Jamie and Lynn have enacted numerous methods to recognize students and staff that are representing themselves, the school and the community in a positive manner. These recognitions have been well received and appreciated by members of the high school community. For this reason, Jamie Hogue and Lynn Blaylock are both Winton Woods High School's Teachers of the Month for February. Now, note, it is not easy to become the Teacher of the Month. So here's some of the attributes. To be nominated for the Skyline Teacher of the Month, teachers must have excellence in the classroom by using instructional practices that support higher academic achievement, motivation by encouraging and motivating students to surpass their expectations both academically and socially, leadership by having a positive attitude with students, parents, colleagues, and the community, creativity and imagination by demonstrating creativity in teaching in a way that inspires students to learn, dedication by showing excellent attendance, punctuality, and overall dependability, and finally, communication by communicating effectively to the classroom, parents, colleagues, and beyond. The Skyline Teacher of the Month Award is sponsored by the Forest Park Skyline Restaurant, a business partner of Winton Woods City Schools. So, Ms. Hogue and Ms. Blaylock. I know you've been working on your speeches all night, so take the podium.
You don't have a question for us, so.
No, what I'm gonna do, we're gonna do this way.
Okay.
You give me your overview, and if I like it, there are no questions. And if I don't, then I'll ask you a few.
Well, I am appreciative, very appreciative of this award. And one thing coming from an intervention specialist is that my coworkers always say that the intervention specialists never get recognized that often. But what I want to say is one of the things that we do strive for is for the students to have a positive attitude and to be recognized for their trust, respect, and responsibility inside the classroom, outside of the classroom, outside of the school. And we just want to continue to show that students, once they are taught the correct way, they will do the correct thing. Thank you.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you.
Well, it's hard to come after that, but I have really enjoyed working with Lynn over this past year, or actually past couple of years, to do PBIS. We really worked hard. We're working hard with the students, trying to recognize them and make sure that they know that they are focused. It's really been a great time working with Dr. Arnold and Ms. Strasser, and I really appreciate this. And I think Lynn said it all for us.
Bravo. Thank you very much. So did you bring family members with you?
Yes.
Okay, this is their opportunity. Thank you very much. So this next award is absolutely an incredible one for an incredible teacher who inspires students every day to do their best, not just in her classroom, but anywhere in the school. Students often talk about how she makes sure that they have all the essentials they need in order to be well-rounded, and also how they have all the essentials they need to be high academic achievers. So the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, the Music Educator Award for 2019-2020, and I have to tell you, this was not just a Winton Woods event, this was a kind of district, statewide kind of initiative. And I'd like to congratulate Ms. Beth Miller as the recipient. So Winton Woods High School, Miss Beth Miller, Winton Woods High School Director of Choirs, congratulations to Miss Miller, who was chosen to be the recipient of the CSO Music Educator Award for 2019-2020. According to the CSO website, the awarded music educator must have these attributes: dedication to the growth of all students in the classroom, establishing a safe and inclusive environment for all students, inspiring creativity and music learning through unique sessions, advocating for music and arts education. Ms. Miller was presented with this prestigious award, which includes a $500 scholarship for professional development during the CSO Educator Appreciation Night at Music Hall, and this was held on February 8th. So thank you, Ms. Miller, for everything.
First, I have to thank the administration, because without the administration, they were the ones who nominated me for this. I had multiple people say, you need to do this, and thank you, I appreciate that, but I've got other things going on right now. I gotta make sure we're heading off to New York safely. But this award, I'm very humbled. I will say, when I got there, I didn't realize it was as big of a deal as it really was. I almost went by myself. Thank goodness I brought Ms. Princess Crenshaw with me. And then there were just so many music educators out there, and I couldn't possibly think, like, every one of us, all educators, but music educators, we put in so many hours, and just to represent them is really important. And when it really comes down to it, it's not my award. It's all of the educators that came before me that were my educators that are all of my colleagues, past and present, and the future to come. Really, that's what that's about. It's about honoring all of them, and I am their legacy, and I just hope to carry, I hope that my legacy carries on in my students as well. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, I did not bring anybody because my daughter's getting ready for nationals for taekwondo, so she's off doing that right
Okay.
now.
Anyone here in the choir currently that Miss Miller, okay, come up and get a picture with her then. Yes, sir. Very good. So, how many of you had the pleasure of attending the talent show several weeks ago? All right, incredible talent, incredible opportunities. But one of the things that we often notice the young people on stage performing, but there are a lot of people who make sure this thing goes off without any problems. And so we had two incredible MCs, your sisters. Okay, all right. So I like the one that's the most beautiful to come up first.
That means both.
Both of you, come
That
on.
means both of you.
Yeah, she's
Come
like,
on
they're
up
really
here.
waiting, like, that means both of you.
Okay, give a quick intro of who you are. Then they did an amazing job emceeing that event. And then I'd like for you to call all of the people who helped make this thing a great success. Call them up so we can recognize them. And they'll come up, and then Ms. Jackson, once we get the whole group, let's get a photo. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, well, my name is Manaya Linkus, and this is Malayla Linkus. We're sisters. I am a 2019 graduate, and she's a freshman right now, so she'll graduate in 2023. So yeah, I feel like that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Oh, I've been doing the talent show for 5 years now, since my freshman year. Yeah. And then Malayla's been doing it for 2.5 years. So, I mean, it's really big dedication, and we love it. And
You guys are veterans now, right?
oh, for sure.
Okay. All right. So, you have a list?
Yes. So first on the list, we would like to thank. No, it's not. First, we'd like to thank Miss September Sullivan. She is such an amazing and wonderful person. She's always there through everything, and we thank her.
Very good. They're going to keep coming up.
They're gonna keep going.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so next we want to thank Mr. Mike and Miss Nancy. You know, the true ones, the troopers. Next on our list, we want to thank the wonderful Miss Megan Weaver. You know, our elementary school teacher, we love her. Next, we want to thank Miss Cindy. And now on to the students. We want to thank Matthew Bernardo. I don't think she's here, but next we want to thank Kate Ingram.
Kate is a 2019 alum.
Next we want to thank Fred. Go Fred. Go, Fred's not here? No. Oh no, I thought I seen him. Okay. Next we want to thank Malayla Linkus. I want to thank myself, you know, for being the one I know. Next, we want to thank Colin, for sure. Is Stephanie here? Stephanie's at work. Okay, cool. So, next, we want to thank Stephanie, you know, she's still here. And then next, we want to thank Joel. Is Joel here? Joel. Oh. Oh, okay, come on. You're behind my sister, I could really see you.
I know I saw you.
There's me. Okay, there we go.
I gotta do it the right way.
Okay, again, these young people were not necessarily performers, but they made sure that the stage and the lighting and the sound was all done in such an extraordinary way to make sure that the performers had their best opportunity to thrill the crowd and win. So thank you guys for everything.
Mr. Smith, I want to tell you about this young man real quick. I would see him every Friday studying at Cincinnati State doing CCP. And I told him, every time you see me, speak, and he did. So congratulations, and he's still there taking CCP courses.
Fantastic. So is Mrs. Denny?
She's there.
Mrs. Denny, we were going to move through the process and recognize Jermaine Hill. I don't think he's here tonight for We Thrive. You want to say a little bit about what We Thrive does and how the community benefits from this endeavor?
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and good evening, Board. I'm a member of the We Thrive team. It's a health initiative, specifically in Forest Park, and we have a team of people that work together from all over Forest Park to basically bring wellness in a variety of ways. One of the newest things that they're going to do is have pop-up fruit stands throughout. I think they have maybe 5 scheduled up until August, throughout the summer. So that's one of the few things that they're going to do.
All right, and Lieutenant Hill has been a very active member of We Thrive along with Mr. Denny and Mrs. Denny. So when you see Mr. Hill, we're going to bring him back next month because he can't escape the recognition. We'll keep doing it until we get him to thrive with We Thrive. All right.
I'll let him know.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Madam President, that's it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith and Mrs. Ruggless, and also a thank you to all of our students and our parents and the volunteers, the teachers, the administrators that make it possible to do what you all do. We really appreciate your dedication and sacrifice to our district and the hard work that you do for us. And thank you sometimes isn't enough, but we hope that just giving you this small recognition will let you know how much we really appreciate what you do for us. So with that being said, we'll take a 5-minute recess and we'll return in 5 minutes. All right, I'll now resume the regular meeting. And our next item on agenda is public comments, and I did not receive any public comments. So we'll move on to 5.01, which is the Winton Woods Teachers Association representative. And I do not think that we have a representative here tonight. So we'll move on to 5.02, which is the Ohio Association of Public School Employees, and I don't see our she's usually here, but she's not here tonight, and we wish her well and hope that everything is fine with her because normally she is here. So moving right along, we're at 6.01 to approve the minutes as presented. And Board, unless you see any necessary changes to those minutes, a motion would be in order.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second?
It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Dr. Cupoletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowans?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggless?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 7.01, or the Treasurer's Report for Financial Statements for January 2020. Mr. Seymour, you have the floor.
Yes, for the month of January, we ended the year-to-date revenues in the general fund at $27.1 million. For the month, we had $2.5 million, of which 1.6 was from the state of Ohio and 500,000 from real estate taxes. We also had year-to-date expenditures of $30.4 million, which is currently approximately 4% under budget, or $2.3 million. For the month of January, as you know, is our expensive month for employee health care. Our employees agreed to a higher deductible health plan, and during the month of January is when the Board of Education makes a 50% contribution to their deductible to their health savings account. And for the year, that amounts to $592,000. Also, all funds ended the month of January with 66.1 million, of which the major funds were 14.8 for the general fund, 6.8 for our building fund, and 39.5 for the classroom facilities. And that's a summary of the financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. With no objections being heard, we'll let the financial statements for the month of January be submitted for audit. The next item on the agenda is 8.01, which is the treasurer's recommendation for investments for January 2020. Mr. Seymour, you have the floor.
Yes, for the month ending January 31st, the board had 66.2 million invested. Interest earned for the month was 113,000, 31,000 of which was a general fund, and 82,000 for the building funds.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. With no objection, oh, no, I need a vote. I'm sorry. Thank you. Board, a motion is in order.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the investment report as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Sure. Dr. Cupoletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowans? Aye. Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously as well. The next item on the agenda is 9.01, which is the reports of the superintendent. Mr. Smith, you have the floor for school reports.
Yes, Madam President and Board. You'll see your listing of all the events, upcoming school events that are taking place across the district. But there are a few that I'd like for you to pay close attention to. Tomorrow is the juniors ACT. It's all juniors in the state of Ohio are tested the same date. So there will be a junior testing for all juniors ACT, and that is a virtual learning day for the rest of the school because they really want to make sure that all the pieces are together and all the Chromebooks and all the technology is working. So it's a virtual day for grades 9, 10, and 12. And approximately 315 juniors will be tested tomorrow. The other one is ACT registration is February 29th. The deadline, excuse me, is 4/4/20. And then you have all-day kindergarten registration begins on March 2nd. And of course, we'd like to keep the young people in mind from the tragedy of Sandy Hook. So it's Say Something Week on March 3rd, which is the whole week, beginning March 3rd. And then there are some other things that are entertainment value, where the Winton Woods High School Varsity Ensemble will take its trek to New York to perform at Carnegie Hall, and that is March 12th. Fourth quarter begins for all the students out there who've done exceptionally well the first 3 quarters. Fourth quarter begins on actually March 12th as well. And then the high school, along with the Warrior Success Program, Senior Credit Check, and Parent Teacher Conferences are on the same day, March 12th, between the hours of 6 and 7. And then on March 14th is SAT testing. And I think Mr. Cupoletti, Dr. Cupoletti, excuse me, you would be interested that on March 11th is our regular Student Achievement Technology Advisory Committee. And that starts 4:30 and runs 4:30 to 6. Okay. I would also like to add, Board, that many board members have been attending some of the events, and the students and teachers are saying they really, really appreciate it when you guys come around. It just lets them know that their work is not in vain. So thank you. Keep coming.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. One question I did have, the Sandy Hook Say Something Week.
Yes.
Are there designated places where the activities are gonna be taking place? Or is that gonna be on the website so that we can,
Mrs. Denny?
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for your question. So, Say Something Week, we split it into two subject areas. One for our, I believe, grades 5 through 12. We have focusing on Say Something. We do different activities for those grades. One being we'll have a large piece of paper up, and as children come by, they commit to, if they see something, they say something, because as we know, students are our best resource. We send letters home with our parents, with our students, for parents to let them know what we're doing. And then the second piece is, while the attention is on really 5th grade through 12th for this program, we wanted to include our little ones. So grades kindergarten through 4 have a No One Plays Alone week. So they really focus, and they do a lot of conversations throughout the week, whether it be over the announcements or in the classrooms. The teachers are set up with resources and materials and videos, and we make sure that our students are well informed.
okay, all right, good, thank you.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much. All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. The next item, anybody else have any questions regarding the school reports? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is 9.02, and that's the first read of the new policy 2261.02, the program Title I, Parents Know Right to Know. And Mr. Smith, you want to share something with
Yes,
us on that?
Madam President, this policy has been in existence since 2002. And I just want to go over some of the attributes of the policy. Since we receive Title I funds, it's necessary for parents to know about their teachers and what kind of teachers they have working with their children. And so there are 5 categories that are listed that we must let parents be aware of. Letter A, whether the teacher has met the state qualifications and licensing criteria for the grade levels and subject. Letter B, whether the teacher is teaching under any emergency provisional status in which the state requirement has been waived. Letter C, the undergraduate major of the teacher in the area of study and any certificates for any graduate degrees earned. Letter D, the qualifications of any paraprofessional providing services to their children. And letter E, in addition to the parents shall be provided information on the level of achievement of their children, and a timely notice that the student is assigned to a teacher who is not highly qualified. So they need to know exactly what's going to happen, how it works, and the teacher that's in front of their child. The other thing that I'd like to add, special kudos to Mrs. Martin and Dr. Ragland. We just had our title audit, and the people who came to do the audit gave us incredible accolades about how well organized we are and how efficient we are about notifying parents about how we are using the funds. So thank you, Dr. Ragland and Mrs. Martin, along with Laura Wilkie and everybody else who had to pitch in along the way. So thank you. The auditors were very, very impressed with how organized we are.
Very good, that's good to know, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Does anyone have any questions or discussion for Mr. Smith regarding this first read?
I do have a question. So, Mr. Smith, I know that this policy is the parent's right to know. Is there a process that you go through to inform parents? What would make you, is it just that if they have a question, you answer the
No,
question, or do we proactively
what we
do
plan to do, and that's a good question, we plan to have focus groups so that parents will know exactly what their rights are and how their children are being treated and how the funds are being utilized. So it's a special call to, here's a meeting, this is the date, this is the time, and there's information that'll be listed on the website as well.
I think this is a good policy because it really does, I think we're doing a great job anyways, but it really continues to usher in a level of accountability to make sure that we're transparent and making sure that parents are understanding the things that they need to know.
Yeah, when the members of the executive team, when we were meeting and we were talking about the goals for this year, it was an automatic where Mrs. Denny, Mrs. Martin, and Dr. Ragland, along with Tanya Bray, collaborated to figure out what was the best way to get the information to the parents. So I think that team has been an extraordinary team, and it shows with the work that they produced. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, this is a first read, is informational at this point, but however, we will need to be prepared to vote on this policy at the next regular board meeting. The next item on the agenda is 9.03, which is the Transportation Summary T1 report. Mr. Smith, you have the floor.
Mr. Denny, you ready?
Thank you, Mr. Denny.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
So I'm pleased to be able to report on the state of our transportation operations, just briefly to the Board. You also have before you some items that were uploaded, but I'll just share some additional information just to give some context. Your transportation department consists of 46 employees, most of which are drivers, as you might expect. 28 of them are drivers. There are 7 special needs assistants to assist with students who have disabilities who utilize our transportation services. We also have 2 sub-drivers, 2 mechanics, 2 people in the office who assist, and 1 supervisor. So 46 people help make sure our students and our kids get to and from school and their programming in the evening safely. Your fleet consists of 40 buses. The total purchase value of the fleet is about $2.8 million. The average purchase cost is $73,000. Some of these buses do go back a ways. Currently, buses are about $89,000 for a 72-passenger bus and about $91,000 for a special needs bus. So the replacement value of your fleet is approximately $3.5 million. So it's a big asset, and we obviously take care and concern over it and treat it very seriously. The average age of the fleet overall is 9 years, which does eclipse the average age, or actually come under, the average age in Ohio. The average age of a fleet in Ohio is 9.42 years, so we're pleased that our overall fleet age is beneath the state average, meaning our buses are younger on average than typically in other fleets around the state. Our frontline fleet, however, is 5.5 years. That consists of 29 buses, and we have 11 sub-buses. Their average age is 14 years. So we try to keep those off the road and keep the frontline fleet on the road. You have a very efficient fleet. Cost per pupil in Winton Woods is $650.20. The state average is $961. So Winton Woods is quite a bit more efficient in transportation for a cost per pupil than the typical state average. And we're the 3rd most efficient fleet in the county, according to ODE data from FY18, with only 2 other districts ahead of us in Hamilton County. So your fleet is well maintained. We try to keep on schedule for replacement because that's important. But the most important thing is the kids. So I would then draw your attention, if I might, to the reports that you had uploaded. Probably the easiest one to look at is the trend data. Although you do also have a report that shows pupils by service type, and you also have a report that shows miles by service type. So you can see that the fleet drove about 3,500 miles per day. You can multiply that by 180 to figure out how many fleet miles you operate per year. It's about 500,000. I did want to draw your attention to the trend data. It's good to just see it longitudinally, but I also did have a typo in there, so I want to redistribute, if I might, just the correction, so you have the most accurate data. The mistake I made was on transportation type for yellow bus. I didn't add a couple cells, and it came out incorrect. So you can see in the trend data, we have a total of 2,507 students transported this school year as of our state report. This is current as of today, the reporting today. You can see that our public students, of course, dominate our routes. It's about 2,000 students, 184 non-public students transported, 115 community or charter schools, and in special education, we transport nearly 200 students. You can also see what type of transport we use. Yellow bus is, of course, the most common, which is also one of the safest modes of transportation in the country. So it's a great way to get students to and from school safely. We do not utilize public transport. And you can see the number of families that participate in payment in lieu of, and the number that we transport by contract and so forth. So happy to entertain any questions you might have, if I can address anything. All right.
Board, do you have any questions for Mr. Denny regarding the transportation summary? I do appreciate you bringing that redraft to us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Again, this information is informational, but he's gonna stay put because the next item on the agenda is 9.04, which is the facilities update. And Mr. Denny, along with Mr. Smith, go over this with us, so you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Smith. And a good evening, everybody who was able to join this evening, or if you might be tuning in at home. This is the update on our construction. So we're very excited, of course, about the new construction in the district. It continues to proceed on schedule, which is fantastic, and also on budget, which is perhaps even more fantastic. We just passed the 50% mark, so it is now February 24th. The buildings are actually due to be turned over to the district on February 4th, 2021, according to the contract. So I'll continue to update the board and Mr. Smith and, of course, our team on that as we go forward, but I'm pleased to say we're on schedule. So I do have a paper copy just for your convenience, but I also want to remind everyone that this information is available on our website at www.wintonwoods.org. And in the lower right-hand corner, you can find the construction updates button. Click that, and you'll find a variety of information dating back all the way to the visioning of the buildings, the initial design concepts, the meetings that were held, and also a weekly update that shows what's going on right now. So this week, probably the most exciting thing going on at my last visit last week was that we are finally seeing the exterior decorative brick go on. And so it's been waterproofed underneath the coating, and they're setting even the glazed brick, which looks absolutely fantastic. Very excited about that. If you see the tinting, that's to keep the temperature right so that the mortar doesn't freeze. So I think it'll be kind of a grand event when that first section of sheeting comes down. You can actually see what the exterior brickwork looks like. The masons are doing a really good job. I'm very pleased with their work and the level of skill that they're showing and the progress they're making, even though the temperatures aren't exactly where we would like them. They're definitely doing a good job in making progress. The roof is on almost entirely over the K6, which is huge. And we're seeing now painting, actually, drywalls in place on the 712 at two wings of the building, and finished drywall is completed, and they're actually starting to paint. So it's amazing what a difference the paint makes. So it just seems to get a little more real every time you turn around. So pleased to report those things, and again, happy to be able to have the opportunity to share this.
Mr. Denny,
Yes, sir.
are we on schedule?
We are on schedule, sir. Yes.
Andy said we're on budget.
And also on budget. Yeah. Utilizing contingency funds, but they're not spent. We still have sitting on contingency, which is where we want to be. We're right where we want to be right now, so it's a good thing.
Very good.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Denny. Thank you, Mr. Smith. The next item on the agenda is 10.01, which is personnel schedules. Mr. Smith, you have the floor.
Yes, Madam President. The recommendation is to approve Schedule A, which is resignations, Schedule C, personal employment support staff, Schedule D, personal employment certificated and uncertificated, including extra duties, Schedule E, leaves.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Board, a motion is in order.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the personnel schedules as presented.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Dr. Cupoletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowan's? Aye. Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 10.02, which is a proposal for overnight extended students trip for Winton Woods High School 10th through 12th grade to Italy and Greece during spring break of 2021.
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Madam President, I could tell you that we won't be taking a yellow bus to that trip.
you think?
Yeah. But before we move forward, I would like to have our new transportation director come up, Mr. Gray, and say a few words about how he's going to make sure that our fleet is the best in this region and not third. Yeah, come on up, Mr. Dan.
Thanks again, Mr. Smith. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce, and board, thank you. Excited to introduce Mr. Gray, Mr. Thomas Gray. He's going to be joining our team as the transportation director in just a few short days, and so we're really looking forward to him joining the team. He is a transportation professional with a variety of experiences. He has served 3 local public school districts over the last number of years, including Cincinnati Public Schools, Northwest Schools, and also Dayton Public. So he's got a wide variety of experiences. He has fulfilled quite a few roles in his tenure. Apart from transportation, he's been a recruiting specialist and a dispatch supervisor, so he's got a well-rounded skill set. He's last but not least, I'd be remiss if I did not mention that he was also a staff sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps, where he was a logistics and transportation manager for over 20 years, and did retire from USMC. He's been recognized for a variety of things that I would love to share. He has memberships in National Association of Pupil Transportation, Ohio Association for Pupil Transport, OAPT, Disabled American Veterans, DAV, member of the American Legion, Cincinnati Federation of Office Professionals. He has received the Future Leader Award in 2018, from the Cincinnati Federation of Office Professionals. He's been awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal 4 times, Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal 6 times, Southwest Asia Service Medal twice, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, and also Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal. I share that in part because I want to frame, I think, the type of asset the district is gaining. I think he's going to be a credit to our kids, to our staff. And I think that demonstrates some of the qualities that he's going to bring. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you for your service. So on behalf of our community and all of us here, thank you for your service. And I need to also mention that you have 7 children, 7 grandchildren, and an 8th on the way. So you're blessed in a variety of ways. So if you all would help me welcome Mr. Thomas Gray.
Good evening, Mr. Smith, board members. I truly appreciate being selected to be the transportation director here at Winton Woods. I'm excited, very excited, to become a part of the Warrior team because, as you know, as a Marine, I'm already a warrior. So I bring that mentality and have that mentality in everything I do. I try to exceed above and beyond in everything that I do, and this will be no different. So the transportation fleet will be in good hands, I believe. If you spoke to anyone that worked with me in Dayton or Northwest, I believe they will tell you the same things. I'm fair across the board. I'm pretty direct many times. So I thank you for allowing me to be a part of the team.
All right, you forgot one important part. And you live where?
Oh, I live in the district.
That's what we like.
I was a little nervous, Mr. Gray, not unless Mrs. Gray had made some other arrangements. You still live in the district, right? Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gray, and welcome. Welcome. Now, Mr. Smith, you're gonna tell us a little bit about this, trip to,
Yeah, this is an
Italy
exciting
and
trip.
Greece.
Yes.
Are we invited?
This trip is open. The chaperoning for this is pretty incredible, but they'll visit Rome, Florence, Italy for 5 days, an excursion to Vatican City. Then after an overnight ferry ride, they'll explore the Metoria region and Delphi and Athens, Greece for 3 days. So giving the young people this opportunity doesn't happen in every school. It doesn't happen in every school district. And I was talking to my kids about it, and they were saying, we don't think we're going. And I would send them to Greece tomorrow if I could. So they are going. And there's some resistance, and they're saying, well, it's an expensive trip. Don't worry, you are going. And I think that they were trying to figure out a way to get out of going overseas because it makes them nervous to travel far from home. But they will go, all three of them together. Just to kind of put it as a package, and they will be in good hands. So I trust the staff, I trust the student body to carry off this expedition with high quality, and we are very, very excited that our kids get this to take advantage of this. If you could imagine traveling abroad with your peers, I think that makes it fun and exciting. I think for the most part, we talk about socioeconomic conditions in our district, and we can't wait for certain things to happen. We have to make them happen for young people. So the experience is here. They'll be able to talk about it for a lifetime, and congrats. So there we go. Yes.
Very good, very good. Well, Board, I hope you've taken some time to read the trip details, because they leave no stone unturned on what
None.
they plan to
None.
do with the time, the itinerary, day 1, day 2. It's very well outlined, and I joked and said I don't know if I could keep up with all of this walking. That looks like it's going to be a lot, but it's a very good trip for them to go on. Many people don't even get the opportunity to leave the country. It's wonderful that a trip like this can be afforded for such a low cost, actually, to the students.
Yeah, the other advantage that the team has put in place to the board, and I think this is the part that makes it interesting. This trip actually takes place in 2021. So they're giving young people a whole year to get their finances and everything together, which makes it that much more exciting. Because when you give me the opportunity and you put it in my hands, and there are parent groups and parent conversations, I think the young people rise to the occasion. I'm hoping that every child gets this opportunity to explore international travel.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's a great
Yes, sir.
opportunity. Yes, go ahead.
I think I read that there'll be 25 students on the trip,
Maybe.
but if you have more students, how will you
Absolutely.
select?
There will be more. These students have made a kind of commitment that they wanted to be interested in it. And what I've done is I pushed back to the administration, I need more children to be part of this experience. Since it is going to occur during spring break, having other volunteers be part of it would be essential for the trip. So the numbers will grow and we will make it as interesting as we possibly can. Again, some of our kids are a little apprehensive about traveling outside of their comfort zone, but we want to make sure that they're in the right hands with the right people. And, we've taken kids to China. We've taken kids to Spain. We've taken kids to Rome, Italy. And they all come back. We've never left a kid there by accident or by design. So it all turns out very, very well in the end. Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Board, a motion would be in order.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the proposal for overnight extended student trip for the Winton Woods High School 10th through 12th grade to Italy and Greece in the spring break of 2021 as presented.
I'd like to second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any other questions? Dr. Cupoletti did ask the one question about the number of students that would be attending. Any other questions?
I have one. So, I like that you said that you know, that the numbers could grow. So does that mean that if a student who is not eligible for the trip because of their academic standing, they can become
Absolutely.
eligible
That is
for
always the goal.
the trip?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay.
I think the one thing that we always have to remember to put in place for students that may not have the opportunity to go, there has to be something just as dynamic here for them to try to gain the experience. The truth of the matter is there's nothing as dynamic. You know, I'm going to Greece. What do we substitute for that if I can't go? So it's very important for us to put all of our wheels in motion to get as many young people to experience it as possible.
So given that, you know, there's some financial, you know, they have to raise money, or will there be a deadline for
Yes.
you have to be eligible, fully eligible, meaning AGS, NTA, at good academic
Everything.
standing by a certain date?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So that the parents will know exactly where their funds are going and what the refund policy could possibly be.
Yeah, I think that is noted here.
It's all
I
in
read
there,
it
yeah.
somewhere on one of these pages. It is noted here for the eligibility. It's on the deadline, I think it's on page 2 there. Students and staff, okay. No, on page 3, 1, 2, 3. What previous experiences, staff, okay.
No, yeah.
Okay, anyway, all right, we've had a motion that's been seconded. If there aren't any other questions, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote?
Dr. Cupoletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye, that vote passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 10.03, which is the second read of the policy 5113, student inter-district enrollment or open enrollment. Mr. Smith, would you please add any comments you can for us?
Yes, Madam President and Board, the 5113 Interdistrict Open Enrollment Policy is been updated just so that you can understand that there are certain parameters that we must put in place when we're taking students from other districts and other communities. So it's about student fees and restrictions, and there are some restrictions there where it does not give us the opportunity to take a kid because of certain conditions that may have taken place in another situation or in another community. Taking kids that are open enrolled, I mean, that's part of our work, that's what we do, but we also have to protect our investment of the students that are already here. So,
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Board, a motion would be in order.
Madam, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 5113, students inter-district enrollment, open enrollment as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Dr. Cupoletti?
Aye.
Mr. McGowan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye. That vote passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 11.01, the Board of Education reports and legislative reports. And the biggest thing, as the legislative liaison, the biggest thing that is still on the table is Ed Choice. It's still up in the air. At the last meeting, we were told that a decision will be made by February the 1st. We thought that was pretty aggressive. It did not happen. I think they pushed it out to April the 1st now. And, you know, there's getting a lot of pushback at the rate that they're adding schools to the list. One representative said we would have more than 1,200 schools on the list by the end of this year. So they have to take a look at it. Somebody else proposed that they try to hold it to 425. We don't know what's gonna happen with it. We just need to keep our, ears open with regards to it. And, hopefully something that makes sense will occur. The other noted thing that I thought was interesting on the legislative report, which is still up for discussion, and it does affect us because our school day does start before 8:30, is that the lawmakers are still looking at that Senate Bill 218, which says that school district, charter schools, STEM schools, college preparatory, boarding school, all types of schools not have a day that begins before 8:30. Which is a problem for us because we start at what, 7 or 7? Yes, right. So we have a very early start for our AGS students. So, it makes our programs what they are. It allows the students to be able to do what they do by having that early start. So that is still up in the air where that will, where that will land. We really don't know.
But in addition to that, Dr. Johnson, when you mentioned the early start times, the early start times actually accommodate us with athletic events.
Yes.
Because starting school early, starting school at 8:30, once you put in the necessary hours, some of your contests and events will start as late as 8 o'clock.
Yes, yes.
And I think it really puts people in a very different position simply because every game is not a Friday game.
That's exactly right.
They're Tuesday games, they're Thursday games.
And they're away games.
Absolutely, yes.
So, yeah, that does present a problem. The other thing that was in here is there's still talk about the legislation of the school buses and people who are passing the school bus once the arm goes out and says stop. So there's still talk about whether those cameras are going to be required, on the bus, on outside of the bus, but it's not talk about who's going to pay for it just yet. So that's where we have to keep our eyes open because that means they might push that back on the districts too. So I always kind of look for things that might cost us money, and that we might need to look at. So that was the other thing that was in the legislative report. So that does it for my legislative report at this time. The next item on the agenda is 11.02, our Great Oaks report, and Mr. Birdie, you have the floor.
During the recess, I passed out the Great Oaks report for you, a paper copy. There's a board highlight page along the top that'll give you some information on what's going on. Then the students in the spotlight. We have one Diamond Oaks student who's a Winton Woods district student, Nijay Harris. She's in the culinary program at Diamond Oaks, and she is a junior ambassador for them. And then we have a few others at Scarlet Oaks. Shauna Allen, who's in the dental assisting program, received the Scarlet Citizenship Award for the week. And then we have Malachi Foster, who's in the construction framing and finishing technologies. He also received the Scarlet Citizenship Award. We have Chanel Love, who's in the culinary arts and hospitality services. She received the Scarlet Citizenship Award. And then we have Olivia Newberry, who's in auto mechanics. She got a job placement with Klaus Filler and Sons. So just some of our, and then I also included the legislative reports that were handed out at the last, they deal mostly with career education, but just so you have it.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Birdie, for giving us such good reports every week, every month. We appreciate your effort in attending those meetings and keeping us up to date on what's going on at Great Oaks. We appreciate that. All right, the next item on the agenda is 12.01, board motions and recommendations. Board, are there any recommendations or motions that you might have? I don't have any. All right, very good. All right, so seeing that we have none, the last item on the, or the next item on the agenda is 13.01, which is board comments. And Mr. Birdie, we can start with you.
Just a couple of things. My grandson is in a Saturday morning program with Winton Woods, and a couple of weeks ago we got to go to a place called the Blue Manatee, which is a literacy project down in Oakley. And I'll give a shout out to Mr. Jones, who actually showed up and read to all the kids at this program, and they handed out a book to every child that attended. And one of the things this place does is just try to make sure that they encourage reading in young people, and they donate books to children that might otherwise not be able to obtain them. So another thing they did is that Playhouse in the Park put on a Stuart Little play that he got to go to, and my wife and I got to sit there and watch that too, and that was pretty fun. So with that, I will finish my report.
Thank you, Mr. Birdie. Mr. McGowan's? You have anything?
No, not really. Well, I guess I had an opportunity to appear on the podcast, and I got to say how impressed I was at the expertise of the people that were there. They made me feel real welcome and comfortable, and thank you so much for everything. So it went really smooth, so that's a big deal for me. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, so
Well, good.
I do appreciate that.
Glad you had opportunity to do that. Dr. Cupoletti?
I'd like to thank the administrators and teachers and volunteers who hit the streets on Saturday and I guess Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, regardless of the temperature, and knocked on doors and explained about our upcoming levy to our residents. So thank you very much. My fingers are still cold.
Well, we appreciate those that went out and were able to walk and hit the pavement. The next person, Mrs. Ruggles?
Yes. First, I want to give kudos to the administrative team, Mr. Smith, and I don't know who's doing the school report, setting that up, but it is looking better and better, and it is. I mean, it just makes it easier for us to be able to get involved. I really like the format, so that is kudos to your team. Also, just to piggyback on what Dr. Johnson was saying about the legislative reports, just know that there are administrators, school officials all over the state who are really convening to talk about the issue with ed choice and the impact on individual school districts. I find it very interesting that it's getting a lot of momentum now that it is touching so many other school districts, and I think the bottom line is that continuing to push and help the leaders at the state understand that the tool that they're using, which is the state report card, is causing some issues, larger issues. So hopefully we'll get some resolution before April on that. And so on January 31st, there was a convening of the report card. There's a report card work group, and then the urban network also convened to talk about that at OSBA, to talk about the impact and what it is that we can do to try and make an impact on making sure that ed choice is not damaging school districts as much. Also, I want to send a shout out. I don't typically do this, but I am going to send a shout out to my daughter, Imani Ruggles, who is a alumni from the Winton Woods City School District, and Ariel Johnson. Some of you may have remembered her, that she ran for school board. Those young ladies are both nurses at the University of Cincinnati, and they come back weekly to work with the young ladies and introduce them to healthcare, and they're planning a visit to the university, to University Hospital, or UC's hospital, to help the young ladies become closer to the opportunity. So, we have a lot of Warrior alumni who are doing some wonderful things. So glad to see that they are giving back as well. And the last thing I want to say is welcome to Mr. Thomas Gray. Your background is impeccable, and just welcome to the team.
Thank you, Mrs. Ruggles. Mr. Seymour?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Birdie mentioned the Blue Manatee, and in Oakley, one of the things since the Blue Manatee came into existence, It's helped create one of the highest literacy rates in that particular area, region. Yes. So if you've never been there before, it's an exciting place to go. They treat kids exceptionally well, introduce them to books. They make books their kids' friends. It's just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And the other part is Mrs. Ruggles mentioned the two dynamic nurses that are alums of the district. We are planning to do a great podcast with the young ladies and do a regular series of alum that have come back to be part of Winton Woods City Schools, and maybe it encourages other people to do it. I think we need to remember to always showcase our kids and showcase our talent. When people decide to come back and give us the other hand, I think it's a great testimonial of how they felt about the experience here. So look for that podcast very soon. And Mr. McCowan, your podcast has gone viral, 8.7 million viewers, sir. I just want to let you know. Yeah, 8.7 million. The age range is from 0 to 2. I mean, little kids like what you had to say, sir.
That's my niche. That's my niche.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
I mean, I give the celebration when it's time, Doc. You know how I am.
Now Mr. McGowan knows why he sits over there by himself.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I just also wanted to just add on about the blue manatees. They've been around for a few years, and my grandson went through a program with them.
Incredible program.
And they have, it's an incredible, they teach children to learn to love to read,
Yes.
and they do a wonderful program, so I can't be happier that our district is, partnering with them. And another thing with the alumni just had the basketball game. Was it this, my days are all missed, was it Saturday? Okay, yeah, like my days are all jumbled, but yes, they just had the alumni. And so we had some of the, old school, guys came back to play, which was, yes, it was very interesting. It was very interesting. But it was good to see everybody come back and to have so much fun, getting together. You don't always get to see that. And we also have that once a year where the band brings back all of the alumni, back and they get to march on the field. And so that's always nice to see. But actually getting our alumni back into these buildings and mentoring our kids is something that we really like to see. And, Mr. Smith knows this is one thing that I want to see, although I have on red tonight. Sorry, guys. I just got dressed this morning, wasn't thinking about the day. But when we go to these games, we want to have on a sea of blue and green.
Yes.
I have been saying this, how are we gonna make it happen? We have to figure it out. But we need to have a sea of blue and green, and it starts at home. I know I've got on this bright red, but okay, forgive me. I got dressed this morning, not even thinking about, this afternoon or evening. But anyway, thank you. Yes, thank you. And plus, it's Monday. Thank you. But yeah, I think that having that warrior pride and having the warrior spirit, it just makes a difference. And when the other teams come into our house and they see that we are all together on one accord, it makes a difference. It really does. Whether it's the football or whether it's the basketball, it does make a difference. And they wore those old throwback jerseys too on Saturday. I thought that was cool. I think that's it. That's all I've got. So I don't think we need to go into executive session, guys, right? All minds are clear with respect to that? We don't need an executive session tonight? Okay, so with that being said, I would just like to thank Waycross for their service in videotaping tonight's meeting, and we'll have no further action. And with that said, we'll call the meeting of the Winton Woods City School Board of Education regular meeting on Monday, February the 24th, 2020 adjourned. Stay safe, warm, and have a good evening.